let's talk about how to set a retention target. So there's 3 steps that I want to talk about quickly. The first thing I want to talk about is how you would actually calculate the retention rate of your customers. So you would do this over any period of time, right? You could do this monthly if you wanted. I don't know if that's necessarily that helpful, to be frank. I mean, probably you'd want to do it at the earliest. You'd probably consider doing it seasonally. You could do it semi-annually. The most common way to do it is annually. And so the calculation is pretty simple. What you want to do is you go 1 minus, and then you do over some period of time, call it annually if you want, the number of customers you started with on January 1st, minus the number of customers you ended with from that starting cohort. So what's important is if you start with 100 customers and then you get a new customer, 101, you're not including that one in your ending retention calculation. It's a starting cohort and then what you had from that cohort at the end of the period. And then you divide that number by the number of starting customers. Okay, so the simple way to do it is if you have 100 customers at the start of the year, you have 80 at the end of the year from that cohort, then your retention rate was 80%. Okay. Now, the simple way to come up with how to set a retention target. Here's what I normally recommend. This is the napkin math. Like, I'm not saying this is the most scientific way to do it, but this is what I recommend. Write down the percent. Like, so go to Localine if you're not using Localine, go to whatever your other CRM is, right? Go get all your customer information, look at their order data, okay, and figure out what percentage of your customers are not a good fit. They're a pain in the ass, nothing's ever right. Their order sizes are super small. It's impossible to please them, whatever the characteristics are, right? You can sort of define that for your own business, but figure out what percentage of your customers, in this case, maybe out of 100, are a bad fit. Maybe it's 10%. And then go figure out what percentage of your customers are a perfect fit. In this case, I'm using 70% as the example. That would be pretty high, right? I mean, I'm not saying, you may not be there yet, and that's fine. It takes time to kind of get there. But figure out what perfect fit means to you. They order regularly. The volume sizes are great. It's easy to upsell them. They're a pleasure to deal with. They pay on time. Again, pick your variables. But go figure out what percentage of customers, bad fit, but you got them, which percentage of your customers are awesome. And then what I want you to do is I want you to add those percentages. So in this case here, 70 and 10. Okay, so add those percentages, 80%. And then I want you to deduct what's remaining from that. So 100% of your customers minus the 80% that we've already accounted for means that there's 20% that's somewhere in the middle. They're maybe not terrible fits. They're not incredible. They're kind of in the middle. What we're going to do is we're going to split that number in half, and we're going to add that percentage to the percentage of your perfect quality customers. Okay. So half of that 20% that's left is 10%. And our retention target is going to be 70% of your customers that are a great fit, if you can see my cursor on the screen, plus the 10% that are, call it, the medium fits, right? They're not great. The reason we're going to do that is because we're going to say, look, if 70% of your customers are a great fit, they should be retaining anyway. You should be able to find a way to keep those customers. And then if 10% of your customers are a bad fit, we want to be okay with letting those customers go, right? It doesn't mean it's not painful in the moment if you miss an order or you take some kind of a revenue hit in the short term, but long term, this is the right decision for your business. And so what's left is really the piece we care about. That's what we can influence, is we got 20% of our customer base left that is on the fence one way or the other. And we can maybe work and turn them into great customers, or maybe if we don't nurture them properly, they're going to slip away and turn into customers that are a bad fit. So that's the part that we should focus on. And the simple way to do it, honestly, is just cut it right in the middle and say, one way or another, I'm going to find a way to retain half of those customers. The other half, I don't know. Now, you might feel really great about your retention abilities today. You might already have some of the flows set up that we're going to walk through today. And so maybe half is not good for you. Maybe, you want 2/3, or maybe you only want 1/3. It's up to you guys, but it's a simple way to think about segmenting your customers into those 3 channels: great fit, not a good fit, and then the folks in the middle. And basically just figure out, what do you think is reasonable to retain from the folks in the middle?